Do you ever come to church just to keep up your reputation? Because that's what was going on in the temple. They were coming just playing the game. The Pharisees were coming and selling things and doing things because they wanted the reputation of being holy, but not really being holy. Did you ever come to church just to keep up, make everyone think that you're this type of person or that type of person? Does your sin ever stop someone else from worshiping? Maybe your spouse, maybe your kids. You sin this way at home, you do this thing at work, but then you come into church and you act a certain way, you worship a certain way, and do you ever keep someone else from worshiping because of your sin? I had to ask the hard question here. Is this house a house of prayer? Like if outsiders came in for the first time, would they say, dang, that church prays a lot? That guy prays way too long. Like I remember I used to be at BFC for years, and what I remember with Pastor Gil for years is Gil would pray forever at the beginning. And he'd pray for all the churches in town. I mean, that was his normal prayer. Like, I don't know if you guys catch it. You come to church long enough, you see that certain guy prays a certain way all the time. I remember, I'm new at church. I remember Pastor Gil praying for the Dwelling Place and Calvary Chapel, him and Calvary Chapel San Jacinto back in that day. And he would pray for all these churches. In my mind, I'm thinking, man, get on with it already. Give me something. And he's praying. And I'm thinking, I'm just young in my faith and I don't even get it. Would people say this house is a house of prayer? Do you find yourself looking to pray with one another after the service? Or do you look to just scatter? Is it a place where intercession takes place, where humility is found? Is prayer central in our act of worship? Put it this way, is prayer central in your act of worship? When you think about worship, is prayer the next thing you think about? Because for Jesus, he comes in, he says, let's get everything straight here. You've made my Father's house a den of robbers, and it's supposed to be a house of prayer. Is prayer something that you see as vital in your walk? We're constantly told through the scriptures to be a praying people. You see this over and over again. In 1 Thessalonians, Paul says, rejoice always, pray continually. See the same thing in Philippians. Paul would say, do not be anxious about anything, but everything in prayer and petition and thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Say this thing in Romans chapter 12, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. You see the same thing in Matthew chapter 6, when Jesus says, when you pray. Not if you pray, but when you pray. That prayer should be an overflow of the Christian. Not an add-on, not a tag-on, not a 5-minute section you put in here. It should be an overflow of who we are. I was reading this week in Genesis 18, and God comes to Abraham and says, shall I keep a secret from my friend Abraham? And then God told Abraham what he was going to do with Sodom and Gomorrah. But there was such a relationship with Abraham. God says, shall I keep a secret from my friend Abraham? And he wouldn't do it. So what would it look like? What would it look like for us as a church to be a culture of prayer?